My name is Shana Jane, a certified sobriety health and wellness coach with 14 years of experience in the treatment industry, and also my own history with substance abuse. As the founder and CEO of Controlled Chaos, I've made it my mission to provide a supportive community for those facing alcoholism and addiction. This podcast is a real, no-nonsense exploration of life in sobriety. No sugarcoating, just real, honest conversations. Life after addiction can be a crazy, wild ride. And here at Controlled Chaos, we're here to tackle it head on. From navigating relationships to finding purpose, we're your lifeline in chaos. Let's dive into the real challenges of sobriety and carve out our path together. I love y'all mucho. Let's go.
Welcome to Controlled Chaos. I'm your host, Shana, and this is one of my really good, known forever friends, Sharon. You want to kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Shana. I am Sharon Sauer, and I am an LCDC and a CCMI. So what that means is I do interventions and I counsel people with drug and alcohol problems. And I've been working in this industry since like 2013, which is a miracle in and of itself because there's a high burnout rate. But I do think my true passion is about carrying this message and helping the next alcoholic and whatever that looks like for that day. I'm also going to celebrate 19 years on the 20th of this month. So,
yay!
Yeah.
I love that. 19 years.
Yeah. I just
So
know.
how did you do it? Tell us the how.
I went to treatment. I mean, I think if I didn't go to treatment and hear the message the way I heard the message from Chris Raymer at La Hacienda, I mean, I remember him being very passionate and the way I listened to him for what he caught my attention. Everyone else was sort of monologue, but the way he delivered the message made sense to me. He started talking about mental blank spot and not remembering the suffering and humiliation of a week or a month ago. And I was like, that's me. I don't remember. Like everyone's asking me just stop drinking and I can't because I don't remember what I did. And it's not about blackout, but it doesn't come to my mind. And even if it does, it doesn't deter me from taking the next drink. So my insanity around alcohol was presented to me and I understood it for the first time in treatment. And I really think without that piece, I wouldn't be here because I was not one of those people that was going to raise their hand in a meeting and, learn from AA. I was going to judge, So I'm just very blessed that I went to treatment one time and it was an okay experience, but I didn't want to do it again. I mean, I was not going to be a repeat customer. So I think my parents intervened and I think just the, secret was up. Like I couldn't go back to my life because now everyone had known that I went to treatment.
Right.
So life had to change and it was me that had to change it. And that was news to me. I was like, what? I thought, I wanted to blame everybody else and put it and make everyone else do things. And this was the first time I was 33 years old that I actually took responsibility for my own life. And it's pretty old.
I love that you said that the gig was up and like everybody knew so you couldn't go back to your old life because that's so different than what I experienced. I was like, so these people know, so I'm going to figure out how to tell them it's something else so I can still drink a little bit or I'm going to find new people to be around.
Yeah.
It's crazy how we will go like out of our way to get what we want and to lie and to, just to do exactly what we want. But a one and done, right? So a lot of people talk about, I guess, relapse and how sometimes people will say like it's part of recovery. And there's a lot of people right now saying, well, it doesn't have to be part of recovery. And that's very true. There are people out there who kind of get it and move on. What do you think the difference is? Like when people get it the first time and people that take longer to get it, what do you think it is? Just something missing or?
Well, I mean, I went to treatment one time, but I did relapse. So my sobriety date is March 20th as opposed to December 1st. And I don't know that I can answer that. I have two friends in Houston. They went one and done to La Hacienda and they have more time than I do. I think there was a difference back then in the way the message was delivered. I'm just going to say that. I think that there was less political correctness around what you could and couldn't do in treatment. I mean, these guys were getting up and yelling and screaming and cussing, and I was relating to that. I don't think you can do that anymore without hurting someone's feelings or, watering it down in a way that makes so we can coddle people and make sure that they feel good. And, I get it. Like I had trauma, like I understand where that's coming from. I just do not believe that it helps an alcoholic get sober. Like I have to go to therapy. I've done several trauma intensives. I still have a counselor, and it's a separate set of issues that requires a separate set of solutions. I thank God for the way that the message was delivered to me. I mean, without that, I don't know. I think people get complacent. And again, when we were talking earlier, it's this idea like, okay, we'll get sober. Like that is a foreign concept for an addict or an alcoholic to understand or even to grasp. And I think, to have some compassion around that just because you did it doesn't mean everyone can, and not like when I say I have 19 years, it's not something I say often. I try and like just be in today and my struggles today.
Yeah.
And so that I can be more relatable, because it doesn't keep me sober. My length of sobriety doesn't, my self-knowledge doesn't, my other people, my sponsor doesn't, my willpower, as much as I want this thing, it doesn't. So I know it all has to do with my connection to God. And so that's what I'm going to say is my answer, is like, how did they get a new power come in? Did they have a new experience with this power that's greater than them? Because that's what I had. And I continue to have. And that's the grace of God that keeps me sober. It's not me. It's my willingness to get quiet in the morning and get connected to him before I leave my door. And that's the truth.
Oh, girl, I forget how good you are. I remember I would watch you, and I was a lot younger back then. So I'll just go ahead and say that I had maybe a little bit of an attitude, but I would be like, oh, she's so mean. She's so strict all the time. But then you would get in and teach step classes, and I would be like, just get it, right? Because you really do know so much, and you really do feel the message, right? So I love that. I love listening to you talk about all of that stuff. So that's really cool.
I get that a lot.
And now I don't think you're mean.
No, it's okay. I mean, it is what it is. I have gotten a little softer, but not very much.
Yeah, I think like as we grow, and even as we grow in sobriety, right? Like our character defects, I think they kind of grow and change, but they're there for a reason, right? And they've helped us to a certain point. So it's like, you kind of got to keep it, but change it around a little bit, right? And I think you've got that, right? The strong part of you, that's why people listen and why they hear you and all of that, right? So you just put a little edge on it, a little sweetness, and it's perfect, right?
And I always say, I'm fighting your disease, not you. And I'm passionate about that. I mean, I'll fight your disease all day long. Like I get that fight. That's a difficult one, but it's not personal. So, and I see that.
I love that. We were actually talking the other day about treatment and how I had been a few times. And it's funny that you bring up how the message is a lot softer, because I was telling someone that, I'm not really like a fighter, or I wasn't like arguing with my roommate or doing all this stuff, right? Like I'm just quiet, and I have a 2-year-old voice. So I'm like, I would get in, my counseling sessions, and we'd talk about like my kids, or, I really got away with not ever talking about anything or ever going deep, or because people think you're fine, right? Mm-hmm. And they just tiptoe around you because you're kind of quiet, or you're kind of, and I was on a podcast a few weeks ago, and this lady was a therapist, and she just went in on me about my childhood and like all this stuff, not in on me, but she just went like deep, and I was like, and I'll tell you what, I left that podcast and I was like, I don't know if I've ever been to therapy. Like, this is crazy. Like, she really touched on some things that I had never even thought of, or even, I was like, I think I just got Dr. Phil. like what just happened? And it made me think in treatment, people really do kind of tiptoe around you, and they're soft, and maybe it didn't used to be like that. Cause I was like, I thought I had been to counseling and but no, I had never really talked about any like trauma or anything like that. Right. And I'm like almost 40.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
and I
like,
think
what?
it's a process. I mean, I think when it comes up and you're ready, then
Mhm.
you can address it. I did not address my trauma in my first year. I didn't really even do intensive work until I was 10 years sober.
Yeah.
When I went down when we worked on the island, I would drive once a week to McAllen and I did EMDR for a year. And
Yeah.
just turned out the therapist was very well known down there, but she's the only one in the valley. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, I think that there's a timing and a place for everything. So,
Yeah.
and these people that are like, oh, I'm going to do EMDR and fix all my trauma in 30 days is just unrealistic I mean, that's just not going to happen. You can know about it, but then is it resonating with you? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I was in a meeting Tuesday night and we were talking about Bill's story and he was talking about how he went to treatment and they did belladonna therapy and like hydroboarding, which is like waterboarding. I'm making
Right.
up that word. It's something, it's hydro something, but like that was in this century. Like that was the best we could do was like give you a lobotomy, separate you from your alcohol and then say, go figure it out. Like that's
Right.
like you're an alcoholic. This is what we're going to do for you. Give you some self-knowledge, remove it from your body and then be like, okay, go figure it out. There wasn't this spiritual solution. There was no community. There wasn't any AA. I mean, he wrote the big book, I mean, he didn't get the spiritual piece until Ebby came and visited him. And he's going along the bottom thinking about suicide. It's like you're at this point in your life where you're going to commit suicide or you're going to get sober. Like that's how far most of us have to get before we decide, okay, before we surrender to something else. That is horrible information. People that are not true addicts and alcoholics and that can just quit or do a dry January don't understand us and we don't understand them. And there's a huge line and there's a huge difference. And I think, we've got to like start really talking about that. I think it's great. Do a dry January. I think it's great. I think if you are struggling and you go to Al-Anon, rock on, but just don't go in there and sponsor people, I mean, just don't.
I can't even. I'm so excited that you brought this up because I am newly sober coaching and doing obviously this podcast. And I've run into a bunch of ladies that I love, but on Instagram. But there is this whole movement right now that like you don't have to call yourself an alcoholic. That doesn't mean you're in denial. You can quit drinking without hitting rock bottom. And I'm like, yes, and I love that, and I love you guys. I don't want to ever hurt anybody's feelings. But here's the deal. If that person is dependent on alcohol, first of all, them just quitting out of nowhere is not even an option, and they could die from that, first of all.
Right.
Second, have seizures from that. But second of all, they need to know if they are dependent on alcohol. If you don't want to call yourself an alcoholic or you don't want to do the 12 steps or you feel like this or that might work, that's totally up to you. You don't have to do anything, but you really should know if you're dependent first. And also if you were not dependent and you're coaching somebody who is, like me, laying in bed for months on end, throwing up alcohol in Walmart bags and then drinking it all back up, right? You might be out of your league. And you might not be able to help that person and you might be giving them not great advice.
Yeah.
And that I really found it hard what to say about that because I'm like, if somebody like me came to you and you were just like, oh, just stop and do that. Like what?
Yeah. And the big book says, it talks about quit. It talks about identifying with the physical allergy and the mental obsession. I mean, it does. If you can quit and stay stopped, great. It's like, can you control and enjoy? I always use that. When you are controlling it, are you enjoying it? And when you are enjoying it, are you controlling it? Like that's sort of my way that I go about qualifying somebody and very briefly. But I do think that's true about you can cause some harm. And I also, when you're talking, I was thinking about the parents. I've just been dealing with some parents in Wimberley wanting to do an intervention on their son and the mom and dad are not on the same page. And the dad thinks he can just quit and the mom understands that he can't. But until they get on the same page, he's going to continue to do what he's doing. And so I think it's interesting. Again, I think that's where it's coming from because I just talked to her this morning and the dad's a cop and he's just like, oh, when he's ready, he'll be ready. And like, No, he's never going to get there. I mean, he's not going to get there on his own. Like, that's what sucks about this disease is I can't get better by myself. I have to get involved in a community, and then I have to start helping people and sponsoring people. Like, it's not something I can do on my own. And I'm not going to hear the message from my parents. It has to be somebody outside of that circle that's armed with the facts about alcoholism. Like, I have to be armed with the facts and then be able to pull you with the vision. If I can't pull you with the vision, then I'm not the right person for the job. Yeah, like 100%. And I get that. I mean, there are some cases where I'm like, this is too close to home. This is a family friend. And you have to make referrals out. I've said no to sponsoring people there was a girl that was smoking meth. I was early on, and she had a whole language and a whole culture that I did not understand. I did not. And I had to finally just tell her, like, look, I don't know what you're talking about. And I do not think I'm the best person. She's still sober today, that little girl in Houston. But when she was coming over, I was like, what?
People know when you're not it, right? Because if somebody, and I've even said it because I talk a lot about this stuff on my Instagram, right? And I've even said that, like, no offense, but if you're just like the mom that's drinking a little wine at home and you're just like, oh, this isn't really great for me and you can stop tomorrow, I'm probably not your one because that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, that's very good for you, but like that hasn't ever been my experience. Like, I was sick, and that's like not to say, not to like brag or say, I was so sick, but it's truly like I look and I'm like, there is a line, right? There really is a line of alcoholism. Like, I knew, Sharon, that I was an alcoholic when I was young.
Yeah.
And I might not have used that language, but like I looked at other people and was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, they're not doing what I'm doing.
No. And they don't need it the way I need it.
Okay. Yeah, like they're not at home hiding because it's like 10 a.m. and they shouldn't be drinking that, right?
Yeah.
They're not like trying to put water in their wine so it's not as bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And it's the intention behind it. Like, I needed it to get right. Like, I needed that first drink just to get me right. Like, I wasn't okay without it. So I think about that a lot too. Like, when we talk about self-medicating, like, oh, I had no idea. I didn't have these words, but I just knew I needed a little liquid courage before I was going to go to that party. But really, it was more than that. I mean, like, I think the dishonesty around the disease and the shame is so great that when we come in and we start talking and we start telling our truth, people are like, oh my God, well, I'm not as bad as that. Like, okay, it's not to compare, it's really to give people courage. Like, it's okay if these are some of your struggles, because we've been through them and we've gotten to the other side. Like, the important part of all of that is like, yeah, I used to throw up and then drink again. Like, yeah, for sure. Like, but now I don't have to, I mean, like, that's the good news. Right. Like, I am no longer in my toilet crying, begging God, saying, I will never do this again. Like, I got that firm resolution every time. Like, I am never doing this again. And I was doing it again by the next morning. Like, it was
like
not
literally waiting in the morning for the store to open and being like, and honestly, just to probably like hear the shakes, right? Like, sometimes it was just to like make me feel better, not even to like, oh, I'm going to get drunk, but like, no, I got to work and I'm not going to be able to be standing up straight and okay if I don't get like a few drinks in or what. But I just think sometimes people don't realize how bad it gets for people. And then it's like, you do have to find a solution. You have to find something. And I'm not ever going to say that AA or the 12 steps is the only form of recovery, because I've seen people who do well doing other things, but you have to have a program. You have to have a plan. I feel like you have to have a spiritual connection. And that's just me. But even me, I do a mix of a lot of things together, right? But I get so worried about this thing going on now where it's like, oh, you don't have to do that. You don't have to call yourself an alcoholic. You don't have to. And no, language isn't the end of the world, but you better know if you're dependent, like, you better know.
Yeah.
Start messing around with making changes or just thinking you're just going to stop and be okay.
Yeah. I love that you said medically necessary for a detox, because that was, I didn't know that. I'm like, you can die from one of my friends did die basically from trying to straighten to sober up to go meet her dad, try and act normal, even though she'd been drinking, relapsing, that she had a seizure, and they had called a family meeting. They were going to send her back to treatment. She had a seizure and she went to the hospital and she died. She's my age. She was and one of my high school classmates. And so I'm 53 and this dying is starting to happen all around me. My best friend, her brother died of this disease. We helped him for a little while, but he had cirrhosis and his kidneys were failing, his liver was failing, and he was, the story, he had just given up. Like, it's just too hard for him. And his dad had done the same thing. We repeat the same cycle, and he's like, I will never want to leave my son the way my dad left me. And then that's exactly what he ended up doing. And my thing is, your brain, if you don't add anything new in, if you're not introducing a new story, it's going to go to what it knows. And I think that's exactly what happened. I mean,
I love that. Because I can remember I had to be like 21 years old and I had did something with a prescription or whatever. And I was using a prescription a lot at the time. And my dad, I got in trouble and I walked in my dad's house and he was like, why? Like I'm like a daddy's girl. So it was like the end of the world, right? That he was disappointed. And I was like, Dad, I don't know. Like, I need it. And he just stopped and looked at me and he was like, when he was young, my grandma had a drinking problem and her marriage wasn't that great or whatever. So they just said she drank because of that. And he was young and wanted her to stop drinking and he hid all her liquor bottles. And he was in the bathroom, like crying, shaking, having a fit. And he said he realized at that young age, at that time, that it wasn't just that she wanted it, she needed it. And he gave it all back and apologized for days. And he was like, I never asked a question again because I seen that she wasn't okay. And he was like, I just seen that same thing from you. And it makes me so sad. And it's so true that it's generational.
Yeah.
Like, it goes on. If you don't.
It's deep. It was on both of my sides of my family. And I think that's why my parents intervened, because my mom's brother died from this disease, my Uncle Tommy, and then my dad's Uncle Bill died. It's not like they suffered but they died in their 40s, about 45. So my parents knew how this ended, right? Like they were like, you're going down this road and it's not a good road. It doesn't end well. And so they intervened. And my dad will say he's passed away now, but he said that was the hardest thing he ever had to do, was drop me off at treatment. And something in me broke. I'm not going to lie. When he left me there and drove off, I don't know. I had never been so emotional in my life. They made me stay in the detox unit because they were so worried about me. Because it was about that gig is up. Like there was something about, like they used to have gates that closed behind and they don't have them anymore. But there was something about that when the gate closed and I was on the other side of it that I just broke. And I'm so grateful for that now because that allowed me to allowed God to come in. He comes through the cracks, not through the strengths. So I love that. Like that beam of light that comes through the cracks of the door, like that, God's on the other side. You just have to crack a little bit and then he'll, make up the room. I don't know why I was talking about that now.
It's okay. It's what happens, right? You just go off somewhere, right? That's what makes the best.
I was like, how do I get back? I don't even know. Oh, we were talking about dad. That's why you were talking about your dad and him noticing that you needed it. And my dad drank. And so I think that, and he drank so much so that like when he was in assisted living, they moved him into a higher level of care and they're like, we can't have alcohol there. And I called him. I said, look, you can't, he has been drinking for 84 years. You can't just all of a sudden not let him have a little alcohol. He's going to die. That will kill him. He doesn't get drunk anymore, but he needs it. He needed to have those, I don't know if he drank, who knows? I think sometimes he drank more than he wanted, but they started doling it out. So he had 2 glasses every day. And I called and used my credentials, out of everyone in the family, you think I'd have been like, yay, let him be sober. But like, that wasn't what he wasn't wanting to be sober, Yeah.
And there's a time and place too. And like where you're at is where you're at, right? If it's really between you and God thing, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
Definitely.
So, but it's a battle. I mean, I agree. I mean, I think about it every day. I think about the, now that I'm kind of on the clinical side, which is new. I mean, I came from like a big book boot camp. I don't believe meeting makers make it, but I'm on the other side and I'm like, where, I wish I could learn a therapeutic intervention that would like cure alcoholism, but there's not one out there. But what I do try and do is explain how this clinical class lines up with the 12 steps. And so, and I love that. And I loved when when it would click for me and it would click for the clients, they were almost hearing the same thing instead of making us at war with each other. Like,
yeah.
Right.
And I think it does go together, right? I think you have to heal everything that's going on. And that's like the therapy part, right? Or counseling. And then also spiritually and like the 12 steps. And I think they really should and do go together, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because the God gives you the power to look at some of that stuff that you've run away from your whole life. I agree with that. That cognitive dissonance, I talk about that a lot and how that is really your obsessive mind. It's those are the stories that you're telling yourselves that are no longer true. Like, it's not going to get me this time. And I can just have one, it's that insanity.
Yeah. And I think that what's the worst part of that is when you actually realize and recognize that it's insanity and you still keep going, right? Yeah. There was a point in me where I was like, I have a whole head full of knowledge, right? And a belly full of liquor. And that's so weird because like, I absolutely know what I'm doing and I'm going to do it anyways, even though I don't want to. Like, that's such a crazy place to be.
Yeah. Self-knowledge. And that was the end of Bill's story. Like, self-knowledge doesn't fix it. I think so. I mean, I wish self-knowledge would have fixed me because, I like to figure out problems. I like to get to the bottom of it, but that didn't work for this, and the other thing is this continuous process. Like, I hate when people used to say, I'm peeling back the onion layer. I'm like, what? Shut up. Like, I just want to be better, like right now. But like over time and as I stay sober, more and more things come up, and not that I am just better equipped to handle things. I think addicts and alcoholics, I remember when the pandemic came, we were fine. We were like, okay, we're going to go to meetings here. We're going to do stuff on Zoom. Like, we were very adaptable. And I don't know if that is because we had God in our life or it's because we had been in AA, but I don't think that I'm like, I don't think that we struggled that much, but a lot of people quit getting help. And so I'm going to take a lot of that back, what I just said. But, I remember at first, like, we were very flexible, but so many people suffered, and they're still coming out of the woodwork. Like,
I think depending where you were at in your journey, right? I was telling somebody the other day, like, I never realized, like, I'm almost to 3 years sober, and this has been like the best year of my life. Like, not even a year in, right? I was like, oh, it's so much better. My depression, my anxiety, all that stuff is so much better. No, like, I feel so good now that like, I'm like 3 years in and I'm still changing, right? Like how I feel still changing. And that's crazy. Like, I would have never known that. So I think that's so important for people to know that are like looking at getting sober, how you feel when you take your like 30-day break or your, dry January. You're not going to feel like that. Like, it's going to feel so much different because it takes a while for your body to go back to like, I don't know what it's supposed to be like before you abused it for 20 years.
Homeostasis. Yeah, for sure. And your chemicals, and to rewire your brain too. I talk about that a lot. And, just to rewire your brain so that your perception of what your life looks like and what's really going on changes, so that you can look and find gratitude in things, and you can find solutions and happiness. And, that was not something I was trained to do, unfortunately. Like, I just looked at the negative and I waited for the next shoe to drop, and I was just constantly prepared and constantly on edge. And I don't have to live like that anymore, and that's amazing.
Forever, and now I'm just like, okay, how do we fix it? Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to talk about it for 9 hours. What's wrong? Like, what are we going to do?
Right. Yeah. And right. And sometimes the solution is like seems so stupid. I'm like, really? Is it that's all you got? But the thing is, how much am I willing to like really follow that through up with action? Like, am I really willing to go down and write some things in my journal and call people and ask them for help and tell people what's really going on and be transparent? You know, like I think that people earn the right to hear your story. I'm a big believer in what Brene Brown said, because I used to just tell everybody everything and then get my feelings hurt. And I can't do that anymore. Like now people earn the right to hear my story. Not that it's that glamorous or that whatever, but I get to have some integrity around it. And I really I think that that's an important piece that I miss early on in sobriety too, you know, and I don't have to justify it.
Careful who gets like the close parts of you too, I think, because not everybody has good intentions, right? So I think like even like keeping who your friends are, and they talk about like people, places, things, but like keeping the people who are around you and close with you, you know, people who are good people and want good for you and stuff like that, that matters too.
Yeah, it does. Because you can go down roads, and I see it all the time. You see people go into a sober living, and I mean, I just had a client and he kept saying, I keep relapsing. I go to sober living. I relapse. You've been doing it for like 2 years. I'm like, quit going to sober living. Like, just quit. You know, like,
what's not working?
Yeah, it's not. That's not. And then go to detox. I mean, and he didn't have another choice, is what he was saying. His mom wouldn't take him back to his farm, but like, there has to be a way out. Like something has to interrupt that cycle, whether it be from an outside source or your own internal. But I'm not sure that we really have the capacity to stop it ourselves. Like that's what scares me about this disease, you know, because we can go to treatment and sit in the back and be quiet and whatever.
Well, I'm just telling you, that's what I did. Like, I don't know, if you're quiet and you don't get in trouble and you don't argue with everybody, people are like, oh, she's great.
Yeah.
She's not great, right?
She's not great. She's there. Yeah, that used to be my pet peeve, because like the squeaky wheel gets the attention. Like, yeah, they get the attention, but there's a lot of people there that are just as sick. They just hide it better.
Yes, very much so. So you have an amazing thing going on, a scholarship. We got to talk about that.
I forgot. I didn't even bring that up. So you know, one of the things I really realized is there's this gap in the continuum of care. Like people can go to treatment if they have insurance, and now Obamacare, you get insurance, and thank God, and addiction's covered on there. But once you get out, they're like, you know, figure it out. There's no more resources available. And a lot of people blow up their lives and then treatment is the last thing that they do. And so, my sister and I started this, you know, it was really from a client too, that I had a client, an ex-client from the treatment center we worked at. She lives in Kerrville, and we got together, and she runs a sober living there in Kerrville called Kerrville. My hit just came out. It called Muir House. And, you know, she just would scholarship people because that's just the kind of person she is. And a lot of houses will scholarship, but there's not a lot of money or funds available for people that want to go to sober living. There's just not, and they can't use insurance, and parents are tapped out, but it is an essential part of the continuum of care. I mean, you know, you've got to find your community and to figure out where, if you can make it with life stresses, with going to work, with the family coming back, with the bills, like what does that really do to your sobriety? And then to be surrounded by people that will support you. And we talk about having fun in sobriety a lot here in Austin. There's a group called Not a Glum Lot that they put on a lot of events, and it's all free to people that show up because it's a nonprofit that people donate money to. So Living Amends gives scholarships to people to go to vetted sober livings. I mean, I've been doing this for a while. So there's a very scary part of this whole industry and this disease. And then there's a good part. And you have to kind of know the difference between people's intentions and who they are and how they run things. And so I've kind of done that work for people, and I vetted sober livings that we believe are doing the right things for the right reasons. So you have to go to one of those houses. And it's throughout Texas.
You go to the different places and check them out, make sure that they're good, doing the right thing. And of course, Muir House is great. I got scholarship to go there. So I was for, I think, 60 days. And it's things. So there are sober livings that are so good, and there are some that are not so great. So you're right. You should go somewhere that is good.
Yeah. So we're having our annual Shoot for Sobriety, which raises funds. It's at the end of April for Living Amends is my nonprofit. And we've been doing it since 2016. I started with Whitney and Sarah Chambers, which is so interesting. Anyway, it's a long story, but it sort of has evolved, and we've really come into our own, and we have a system down now, and we ask for weekly progress reports, and we go out and visit the houses, and it's about our relationships with the sober livings. And what's cool is we were just talking in the car is that we're having this Shoot for Sobriety, and several of our candidates that have gotten scholarships are going to come out and volunteer and so we actually see where your money goes, and you get to talk to them, and they're doing good, and they're so grateful. And it's one of those things that, again, it's not about the squeaky wheel, but it's about the people that are doing the right things for the right reasons, and we're wanting to reward them,
So I talked to Sharon the other day, and we decided people have been asking me for my new little sober coaching and podcast business. I made like sober gear. So it's like, I don't know, all these cool quotes and stuff like that. So when people buy it, it's made by another company. So they'll get their share when you buy something. And then 10% goes to me, and my 10% is going to go to the fund for the scholarship. So if you do buy something, you'll be donating to something good. And I'm excited. I wanted to make sure that out of this whole thing that I'm doing, that I'm able to like help and give back to somebody too. And I thought of you right away because I've been watching you do that. So I think that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate it. And we give 100% to the sober living. Like, we don't have a building. We don't have I don't believe in that admin, a bunch of that. It's like your dollars go directly into the sober living. So we see it happen right away, which is really cool. It makes an impact. I mean, I think I haven't run all the numbers, but we have made a significant difference. I know that here in Austin.
I love that. That's so amazing. So is there anything that you want to say, or anything that you would want people to know about anything?
Oh my God. That is broad. I don't do good with broad questions because it's like, I don't know. It just makes but I do think that
anxiety. How about, is there any advice you would give to somebody who's listening and is thinking about getting sober?
I would say it's possible, and it requires taking action. I would say don't listen to your head or your heart. Just do it. In the beginning, it's just about action. And then, eventually your mind does change and you start to see things differently, but you have to start doing things differently first. And it's not going to make any sense, but it's way cool on the other side, and it just gets better. It's like compound interest. I mean, yeah, I had 19 years, but I feel like I've been given another life, and that's amazing to me. And every day is an opportunity for something new, which is not how I used to feel ever. So it's possible to change.
I love that. And thank you so much for coming on today and talking with me and all of that.
Sure. No, thanks for having me. It's been fun. It was easy. I didn't have anything prepared, so I appreciate you guiding me.